Well, hello. Welcome to Friday afternoon Bible study. And we are going to be looking at James chapter 4, 1 through 3. I'll give a couple of seconds for people to get on and say hello. I'll even type. Hello, glad you're here. That's on YouTube and on Facebook. So I'm pretty sure the sound is working all right. So just want to know how you're doing. How are things going? Things going well in your life, especially with this last week. Wasco County has moved from extreme danger to low danger. Restaurants are opening up, and things are looking good there. So glad you're able to hang out with us for a little bit. James chapter 4, 1 through 3 is where we're going to be looking at. I did this lesson for the youth group Wednesday, and there's some very, very good things in here, especially given our culture and our time that we live in, how to kind of move through these things to have God's best for your life when it comes to dealing with fighting and selfishness, scheming, and questioning our motives when sometimes they are wrong. So glad you're able to be with us. We're going to move through James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3, and take a look at what's going on. I'm going to type in a couple other things in order so you can write them down or come back to it later. I'm going to put in one more I can bring up later. So James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3, I'd love for you to go there. I'm going to bring it up on a tab here so we can go along with it. And here we go. James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3. And we have to understand things that are going on in this church. James is Jesus' brother, and he's writing to a church that obviously has some problems, and he is asking them, listen, could you please just do this? These things that are part of the Christian life, would you please just hang out on these ideas? So James chapter 4, verse 1 through 3. It says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasure. So what we see here with James is that there's something within the heart of people where the question of our motives should come out within our Christian life. So we are part of a group of people that needs to continually question the motives that we have, the motives that we present, what's deep within our heart. So let's move through James chapter 4 and make some observations. In this group of people, James says, what causes fight? So we know that they've been fighting, and it's not a surprise because people fight. Many of us, we're in conflict with others every once in a while. We disagree with someone, and especially in our culture, if you disagree, sometimes we see that as unloving. But many of our conflicts happen not because we just disagree, but because we have the inability to love others as ourselves. So in your disagreements with people, is it possible to disagree and to love? I believe it is. I believe it is. I believe there is the ability to love someone, but also disagree with them. And in your life, when you are trying to please God with your life, you have to find that balance where there are disagreements, but not quarrels. There's disagreements, but not fights. And the disagreement doesn't come from the desire to win or be right. The desire comes for truth so that it will be helpful to the person. So people have been fighting. You also see here selfishness and jealousy that causes conflict. And we can all be selfish sometimes. We want to get our way, be right, have what someone else has, or be the best. And those desires, they lead to conflicts. But we can't love others and be jealous or selfish. And so James reminds them of that. You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. So your motivation isn't for the benefit of other people, it's for your own selfish desires. And then he also goes on to say, you scheme to get what you want. And we might have never killed anyone to get our way, but we've probably come up with a good scheme or two in order to get what we want. But we can't love others while manipulating, making demands, or pressuring people to get what we want. So we see within James, there's some really good applicable things for our life where we need to check our motives. And I guess that's the main thing for today, is that we just check our motives. Why are we doing what we do? Why do we say what we say? What's the motivation of the heart? And Jesus gets to that very plainly in Matthew chapter 5-7, where he says, you've heard it said before, but I tell you, from the inside out is what matters. So the Pharisees would say what you put into your mouth matters. Jesus says what comes from the heart actually matters. That's what defiles a person. And then there's one more thing I want you to consider. Let's go through them all that I mentioned already. People have been fighting for their own desires. Selfishness and jealousy, it caused conflict. That's just what happens. And then in those conflicts, sometimes we scheme to get what we want, whether that's manipulating words or the argument that someone has. I don't know about you, but I find sometimes I get into that trap where instead of being self-reflective and questioning my motives, I'm questioning another person's motives, and not in a good way. It's where it's like, well, why did you do that? And why did you do this? And ascribing to them something that they never really did. And then lastly, our motives are often wrong. We're human beings. We understand that. And so my encouragement for today is to move through James chapter 4, verses 1-3, and ask those questions. The question of, am I prone to fight with people? Selfishness and jealousy, is that part of the conflict that I have in relationships that I have? Am I scheming? Am I manipulating? Am I not being forthright? Those things that go into relationships. And then motives. Sometimes our motives are wrong, so we need to sit back, take a big deep breath, and figure those things out. The self-reflective Christian, I think, is the most influential Christian, where that person can articulate why they're thinking what they are thinking. And so I want you to today deal with that. Maybe you have been in conflict with people. And so I want you to go to James chapter 4 and see how he decided to encourage them. Putting others first, it doesn't mean you stop taking care of yourself. You'd be pretty unhealthy if you did that. Jesus isn't calling us to make so many sacrifices for others that we become unhealthy, but I'm guessing there are some sacrifices you can make for others that would help you move away from me-centered thinking. And that's really kind of the gospel in a nutshell, is the ability to get rid of me-centered thinking. Philippians chapter 2, great chapter where it describes Jesus emptying himself of his glory to be found in human likeness, to be found like us, and then submitting himself for the sacrifice for us. And so it makes sense that James, which interesting enough is the brother of Jesus. Could you imagine that? being the little brother of the Savior, and then having to submit yourself to the teaching. So James understands that the ability to self-sacrifice for the needs of another person, but not in a way that makes you unhealthy or denigrated in your own mind, or just laying back and saying, oh, I guess I'll do everything for everybody else. But the ability to know our motives, why we're doing it. And that's really the secret to prayer too, is the ability to go to God and say, these are my motivations. This is why I'm just being honest with it. So I believe this week, if you look at James chapter 4, move through that, question your motives. How are you in relationship with everyone that you're in a relationship with? This has been monumental in my relationships with other people. The ability to just say, here's my inner monologue. Here's what's going on. Here's my motivation. And I think that would be beneficial to you as well. So James chapter 4, read it, figure it out, and may your motivations be true, not only in your relationship with other people, but also with God. All right. Love you. Hope that's helpful. And